Let me tell you something that doesn't make sense. Germany had the most feared tanks in history. The Tiger, the Panther, the King Tiger. Tanks so powerful, Allied commanders issued special orders. Do not engage alone. And yet, Germany lost. Not because their tanks were weak, but because of what happened every time they sent them east. This is every German tank that fought on the Eastern Front. What made each one legendary, and exactly why it wasn't enough. Let's get into it. Germany's first tanks were never supposed to see real combat. They were training vehicles. But Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, and everything got sent east. Panzer I, the machine gun tank. Armed with nothing but 2 machine guns, no cannon, no armor worth mentioning. Germany sent nearly 1,500 of these into Operation Barbarossa in 1941 against Soviet T-34s and KV-1s. It was a massacre in the wrong direction. The Panzer I proved one thing on the Eastern Front: sending the wrong tank to the right war is the same as sending no tank at all. Panzer II, the stopgap, 10 tons, 20mm cannon, crew of 3. Germany used about 1,000 of them in the invasion of the Soviet Union. On paper, a light tank. In Russia, a coffin. The Soviet T-34 outgunned it. The KV-1 out-armored it. By early 1942, the Panzer II was pulled from frontline service. But its chassis lived on, repurposed into tank destroyers and self-propelled guns. Germany couldn't waste anything on the Eastern Front. Panzer 35T, the Czech inheritance. When Germany occupied Czechoslovakia in 1938, they didn't just take territory, they took an entire arms industry. The Panzer 35T was a Czech design, 37mm gun, crew of 4. Good enough for Poland, good enough for France. But the Eastern Front was different. Soviet winters froze its pneumatic brake system solid. It remained in frontline service until 1942, then was converted for other roles. Germany's borrowed tank couldn't survive Russia's borrowed time. Panzer 38T, the reliable Czech. 1400 built for the Wehrmacht. Same 37mm Czech gun. Better reliability than the 35T. 3 full German panzer divisions went into France equipped with this tank. On the Eastern Front, obsolete within months. But its chassis became one of the most important in the war. The Hetzer tank destroyer, the Marder series. Even after the tank was useless, its bones kept fighting. Sometimes the platform outlives the weapon. The early tanks failed on the Eastern Front. Germany needed something heavier, something that could actually fight the T-34. These 2 tanks became the backbone of every panzer division. Panzer III, the workhorse. 1,500 sent into the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941. At that moment, the most numerous tank in the German army. 50mm gun, crew of 5. For the first months, it dominated. German tactics, training, and crew skill gave it a 6-to-1 kill ratio in 1941. 6 Soviet tanks destroyed for every 1 Panzer III lost. Then, the T-34 arrived in numbers. Even upgraded with a high-velocity 50mm gun, the Panzer III could not cope. Britannica confirmed it was completely outclassed. Pulled from the Eastern Front by 1943, the tank that won the opening act couldn't survive the main show. Panzer IV, the survivor. The only German tank to remain in production and combat for the entire duration of World War II. Wikipedia confirmed it comprised 30% of Wehrmacht's total tank strength. It started with a short 75mm gun designed for infantry support. Then the T-34 appeared. Germany upgraded it, longer 75mm gun, L-43 barrel. Now it could penetrate a T-34 at over 1,000 meters. From spring 1942, Panzer IVs with the new gun played a crucial role on the Eastern Front. The American Sherman 75mm gun had trouble facing the Panzer IV at normal combat ranges. This was Germany's most important tank, not the Tiger, not the Panther, the Panzer IV, because it was always there. The T-34 shocked Germany. Their existing tanks couldn't beat it, so they built something new, something that copied the T-34's best features and made them German. Panther, the T-34 killer. Germany sent a special commission to the Eastern Front in November 1941. Their mission? Study the T-34. Find out why it was beating German tanks. The report came back. Sloped armor, wide tracks, long gun. So Germany built the Panther. Sloped armor, wide tracks, 75mm KWK-42 L-70 gun. Could destroy almost all Allied tanks at long range. Juno Beach Center confirmed. Allied tank crews operated on the assumption that 3 of their tanks would be knocked out before a Panther could be outflanked and destroyed. 3-1. The Panther first fought at Kursk in July 1943, widely considered the finest tank of its kind in World War II. Germany had finally built an answer to the T-34. The problem? They never built enough of them. Panther was the answer to the T-34. But Germany wanted more. They wanted tanks that nothing could stop. What followed were the most feared armored vehicles in history, and the reason Germany almost couldn't move them. Tiger I, the most famous tank in history. 88mm KWK-36 L-56 gun. The same 88 that was already destroying Soviet tanks as an anti-aircraft weapon, now mounted on a tank. Frontal armor 100mm thick. At Kursk, Tiger I's demonstrated superiority over most Allied tanks. One Tiger commander, Michael Whitman, single-handedly destroyed approximately 20 tanks of the British 7th Armored Division at Villers-Bocage. Stopped an entire flank operation, alone. But the Tiger had problems. Heavy, slow, mechanically unreliable, expensive to produce. Germany maintained relatively few in the field. The most feared tank of the war was also one of the rarest. Tiger II, the King Tiger, the monster Germany built when the Tiger wasn't enough. 88mm PAK-43 L-71 gun, even more powerful than the Tiger I's. Frontal armor 150mm thick, could destroy virtually any Allied tank at long range. Weight 68 tons. Top speed 38 kilometers per hour on a good road. In Russian mud, it barely moved. Engine constantly overheating. Fuel consumption catastrophic. Germany was running out of fuel by 1944. The King Tiger was the most powerful tank of the war. It was also almost impossible to keep running. Power without logistics is just an expensive statue. Maus, the tank that never fought. 188 tons, the heaviest tank ever built in history. 2 prototypes completed. 0 ever reached the Eastern Front. Why? No bridge in Europe could hold it. It sank in soft ground. Its engine couldn't power it and the gun at the same time. Hitler personally approved this project. While Germany needed thousands of Panzer IVs, engineers spent years on a tank that could never cross a river. The Maus represents the moment German engineering lost touch with the actual war. Germany realized something on the Eastern Front. Building full tanks was expensive and slow. But if you took an old tank chassis, removed the turret, and bolted on a powerful gun, you got something deadly. Faster to build, cheaper to make, harder to stop. These were the tank destroyers. Stug 3, the accidental tank killer. Originally designed for infantry support, low profile, no turret, 75mm gun. On the Eastern Front, it became Germany's most effective tank destroyer. Fixed forward-facing gun meant the whole vehicle had to turn to aim, but its low silhouette made it hard to hit, and its gun, especially the long 75mm version, could kill T-34s and KV-1s at combat range. More Stug 3s were produced than any other German armored vehicle. The weapon designed to support infantry became the weapon that saved the infantry from Soviet tanks. Jagdpanther, the Hunter. Take a Panther chassis, remove the turret, mount an 88mm PaK-43 anti-tank gun. The result, one of the most effective tank destroyers ever built. Long-range accuracy, low profile, Panther-level armor. Soviet tank commanders feared it. The problem, only 415 were ever built. Germany kept designing perfect weapons in quantities too small to matter. Ferdinand, the Kursk disaster. Built on Ferdinand Porsche's failed Tiger prototype. 88mm gun, 200mm of frontal armor. Nothing on the Eastern Front could penetrate it from the front. But at Kursk in 1943, Soviet infantry discovered it had no machine gun. They walked up to it, jammed grenades in the tracks, or simply waited for it to break down mechanically. Of 89 Ferdinands at Kursk, 39 were lost, not to enemy tanks, to infantry with grenades and mechanical failure. The most armored vehicle at Kursk, destroyed by men on foot. Jagdtiger, the heaviest tank destroyer ever built. 128mm PaK-44 L-55 gun. Could destroy any Allied tank at any combat range. Frontal armor, 250mm. Weight, 71.7 tons. It destroyed numerous enemy tanks wherever it appeared, but it weighed more than it could handle. Mechanical failures were constant. Most Jagdtigers were abandoned, not destroyed by the enemy, but by their own crews when they ran out of fuel or broke down. The most powerful tank destroyer of the war, defeated by its own weight. Not every tank on the Eastern Front was built to kill other tanks. Some were built for very specific jobs, clearing minefields, providing artillery support, recovering destroyed vehicles. These are the tanks history forgets, but without them, nothing else worked. Sturmtiger, the building destroyer, 380mm Raketenwerfer 61. Not a gun, a rocket launcher. Designed for one purpose: fire massive explosive shells capable of destroying entire buildings. Urban combat, fortified positions, thick armor, short range. 18 were built. By the time it appeared, Germany was defending, not attacking. A weapon designed for siege warfare, used in a retreat. Flammpanzer III, the burning tank. Standard Panzer III chassis, main gun replaced with a flamethrower. 1,020 liters of flame oil, designed for clearing bunkers and fortified positions. About 100 modified during 1943. On the Eastern Front, used against Soviet defensive positions. Psychologically devastating. The sight of a tank spraying fire broke defensive lines faster than shells. But it had to get close. In the open steppes of Russia, close meant dead. Tauchpanzer, the submersible tank. Germany modified Panzer IIIs for the planned amphibious invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion. Waterproof seals, snorkel tubes, designed to drive along the seabed. Britain was never invaded. These tanks were redirected east, used in river crossings on the Eastern Front. A tank built to walk on the bottom of the English Channel ended up crossing Russian rivers instead. Germany occupied Czechoslovakia, took their tanks. When those tanks became obsolete, Germany took their chassis and built something better. Hetzer, the small killer, built on the Panzer 38T chassis. 75mm gun, low profile, sloped armor, cheap, fast to produce, hard to see. Germany needed tank destroyers desperately by 1944. The Hetzer delivered. Small enough to hide behind cover, gun powerful enough to kill T-34s. It was so successful, production continued after the war for the new Czech military. The Swiss army used it until the late 1960s. A German weapon built on a Czech chassis outlasted the country that built it. Marder II, the emergency solution. The T-34 was destroying German tanks. Germany didn't have time to build new tanks, so they took obsolete Panzer II chassis, bolted captured Soviet 76.2mm anti-tank guns on top, and sent them east. Open-topped, minimal armor, crew exposed to artillery and rifle fire. But the gun could kill T-34s. That was the only requirement. The Marder II was never meant to be elegant. It was meant to be fast. And on the Eastern Front in 1942, fast was the only option Germany had. 20 tanks, from the Panzer I with machine guns to the King Tiger with its 88mm cannon. Germany had the technology, they had the engineering, they had the most feared individual tanks in the war. So why did they lose? Because of this, the T-34. Not the most sophisticated tank, not the best engineered, but the Soviets built 57,000 of them. Germany's entire panzer force across the entire war was never more than a fraction of that number. When General Guderian sent his commission to study the T-34 in 1941, German engineers wanted to simply copy it. Hitler refused. He wanted something bigger, better, more German. That decision, the Panther instead of the T-34 copy, may have cost Germany the Eastern Front. The Tiger could destroy 10 T-34s, but the Soviets had 100 more waiting. Germany built the best tanks. The Soviet Union built enough tanks. On the Eastern Front, enough always beats best. Remember what I said at the start. Germany had the most feared tanks in history, the Tiger, the Panther, the King Tiger, and they lost. Not because the tanks were weak, but because the war was bigger than any tank. Supply lines stretched 2,000 kilometers. Russian winters froze engines solid. Soviet factories behind the Urals were unreachable by any German bomber. And for every Tiger Germany built, the Soviet Union built 10 T-34s. The Eastern Front wasn't won or lost by engineering. It was won and lost by numbers and weather and time. Now the question is, which German tank do you think was most effective on the Eastern Front? Tiger, Panther, or something that surprised you on this list? Comment below. I read every single one. And if you want to see how the Soviet side responded, every Soviet tank that faced these Germans, that video is next. Subscribe, it drops this week.